Welcome to BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are moms on a mission to share women's stories about life, fitness, aging, relationships, travel, and much more. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a second to give you a quick reminder about subscribing to the show. If you have not already, just take a moment and do so. This will make sure that you never miss a daily bite or an upcoming episode. And in addition to that, if you have a few extra moments and like to drop us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And there's also a sponsor the show located at the bottom of all of our episodes. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being badass. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us on another episode of The BAM with Lori and Jenny. Today, we have a super special guest, Melissa Churchard Hannon. She is an executive coach, a leadership facilitator, an author, and a badass mom. She spent more than 3 decades helping teams and leaders build strong cultures, improve collaboration, and lead with intention. Today, we're so excited she shares with us her journey from experiential education and corporate team development to becoming a trusted coach for leaders navigating complex workplaces. We also dive into her book called Unscripted about how women holding it all together at home, at work, and inside can start choosing themselves again. We are so excited to have Melissa on the show. We're also going to talk about leadership burnout, workplace culture, and the importance of challenging the assumptions that keep us stuck. Today's a truly amazing conversation, and we're really excited to have you join us. Hi, Melissa, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lori. Really, really appreciative of your time and being here, and very excited. Thanks, Jenny.
We're excited to have you. Thank you.
So we always start with the really tough question, and that's like, tell us all about you. Right? No, just kidding. No, we do. We like to set the stage of how you got to your current now. You are a coach, and we want to talk a lot about that to executive leaders. But I want to know how you got there and how you juggled it all with having 4 children along the way. So, you can start back from where you went to school and how you got into that kind of path. We'd love to hear all about it.
And don't forget to take us all the way through because Melissa just launched her book in August. So we definitely want to hear about your book. So tell us how all of this shaped, the stories that you share in your book too.
Okay, will do, Jenny. So I graduated college with a BS in art education and got my degree without a job. And months went by and I still didn't have a job and I was cleaning hotel rooms. And my father, who has been in experiential education, he was one of the original kind of creators of this trend of experiential education, experiential learning. And a good friend of his said, hey, I can't employ you, but I can feed you and I can teach you everything I know about, working with groups of high school kids and kind of learn the trade of leadership development for kids. And so that really started my journey back in 1993. And I realized how much I loved experiential learning. I loved working with kids. And then I started to grow through the industry. So Jenny, you might know, being in HR, that, back in the 90s, organizations were coming out to be on the ropes course for a day. And that was a big deal.
Yep.
And so they were bringing their teams and everyone was being brave. And, so I worked 7 days a week on the ropes course. And then the profession started to grow and I had the good fortune of growing with it. So companies started to demand more. Can you come and work with us on site? Can you work with us once a month? Can we, start working on some of the problems that we're dealing with? What are our issues? And I started to learn and really love how to deeply dive in with organizations and intact teams and figure out what was going wrong and to start helping things go right and really helping teams work better together and really strengthening those relationships. And that really, I firmly believe that's the mortar of a healthy culture and a high functioning organization.
What I love about that is it right away shows like your selflessness to be a giver and to open up opportunities for wanting to help other people. And I think there's just some people that know that and like inside them that they want to go out there and they want to help other people be better. And that's really exciting that you realize that part of your personality almost like immediately when you decided to step into working with kids and into the working world. And your current path obviously has led in the same arena, right? Of coaching and mentoring and being a Yoda, as I like to say, to helping people find their true, what can I do to make myself better?
But when we were chatting, when we initially connected, one of the things we were talking about is, I don't know if anybody's seen the show Billions, but there's they have a coach on staff. And I was telling Melissa, I'm like, I firmly believe that everybody should have a coach. It's like athletes have a coach. And look what they can do, right? It's so much, there's so much mental stuff that you have to overcome to get from where you are to where you want to go. So yeah, I think coaching is such an amazing profession. And I love just those transformations that you get to see. Yeah. Tell us a bit about it.
That's really well said. And I have a coach. I wouldn't be without a coach. Yeah. You need someone without any skin in the game. That's the important part, right? That we just don't know what we don't know. And to have that other set of eyes and that expertise is invaluable, really invaluable.
My question is, being able to kind of be in that arena of helping and guiding and coaching, you've been able to stay in it throughout the years. And I kind of hear about the development of the different paths that you've taken within it, how you've kind of stayed along, that genre, but also, had specialties along the way.
So first of all, this was probably 10 years ago and I was traveling a ton. Is it okay to swear or should I not swear?
Yes, we absolutely. We fucking like it when our guests say
please do.
Helpful. Okay, good. Then I can let it all fly. I was traveling a shit ton and the kids were young and my partner, he's a teacher and a coach and we just couldn't manage it all with all my travel and I wasn't standing down. I loved what I did and I was gone sometimes 3 weeks out of every month, on site at organizations. And so we sat down and this was kind of the real beginning of unpacking and starting to figure out how to work well together. And we put the pieces together. He said, I really love what I do. And I said, well, I do too. And so what can we do about that? And long story short, and it wasn't easy because we lived next door to my parents. We moved to a private boarding school. So what that meant is all the kids could come. They could all go to school here. He didn't have to travel anywhere because our living, apartment was on campus. And so he was always around. So if I wasn't there, it didn't matter. The kids could walk to his office or walk to his classroom. And so that was a big change that we made for me to be able to continue down this path and continue to develop the business. And it's been pretty awesome. And what happened was as I continued to work with women and continued to hear the stories of really so much women just really shitting on themselves so often about not, I don't know why I can't manage it all. I don't know why I can't do this. I don't know why I can't do that. And just by nature of the work I was doing, I was working with a couple of industries that were traditionally male dominated. So a lot of times women were the only ones in the room or they were the only ones at the table. And so started to kind of notice a trend and think, okay, so women who are working in male dominated industries, it's hard. They're dealing with the crap that all the rest of us are dealing with, but they're also dealing with this extra crap. They're dealing with the microaggressions, they're dealing with the good old boys club. And so I went out on a limb and said, okay, let's have a women's leadership roundtable at this particular organization. And so the women came together, and this was not long ago. You might think it was 1970, but it wasn't. Yeah. And the stories that they told just left me. It was, there's a manager. He's always touching my hair. He said, it just feels so good. I have somebody else who said, I love that we have eye candy and someone who can do finance. I've got to have more people in my department like you. These things that people were saying, and these women were not saying anything. Yeah. They were just carrying it. And so in this safe little container that I created, I realized that women really needed a place to come together and to talk and offload this shit, so they could stop carrying it around. And so that was in 2015. And there's another story that goes along with it. That's the opening story to the book that I'll read if you would like me to.
Yes, please. Yes.
That really got me into it. That's when I made the commitment. And I love working with men. I love working with teams. And this is what kind of created this niche.
First off, what's the name of your book? Because I want to tell people, this is the first book you ever wrote.
It is. Yep.
It recently got published in August. Tell us the name, tell us what its premise is, and then please read the part you're going to share with us.
It's called Unscripted, and the subtitle is How Women Holding It All Together at Home, at Work, and Inside Can Start Choosing Themselves Again. And I chose it. It took me a long time to land on the subtitle because we don't need to be last all the time. That shouldn't be a newsflash. We just don't. And my colleague, Tony, who is an amazing coach and facilitator himself, read the book. And I got on a call with him, and he held it up and he showed it to me. And he's, look at this book. And it was just filled with dog ears. And he said, you picked the wrong title. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, this isn't for women. This is for everybody. Men have to read this. Everyone has to read this. This is some good shit. And that was my first, okay, I put what I knew into a book in order to help people, but maybe it's pretty good.
Yeah. And we will share the link so that people know where to find it and all that kind of stuff. So we'll share that as well.
That would be great. All right. Thank you. All right. So one of the things I will tell about the book, one of my favorite stories is nobody, especially women, needs anything else on their to-do list. So my goal was to make the book 100 pages or less. So you could read it in one plane flight, one sitting, got all excited, sent it off to the publisher and got a message back. Sorry, we don't print anything. It's less than 112 pages. It's like, okay.
All right.
But what that allowed me to do is to put some really neat quotes. When I've run the women in leadership modules, which I've done over the years, some of the quotes that come out of them are unbelievable. And this is one of my favorite.
Yeah. If you're not home to make a hot meal, nobody else will be. That's just, it's amazing to me that this is.
So the quote is, if you're not home to make a hot meal, somebody else will be.
Okay.
Get the quote right, Jenny. Get the quote right.
I know. Hey, and I even have my readers on.
And this came from a young woman who was in my leadership module, and she said that's what her grandmother always told her. Don't work so much.
Yeah.
If you're not home to make a hot meal, somebody else will be.
Wow.
She just repeated it over and over again. Interesting.
And that stuff just carries through in ways that we don't even realize, to your point, you just hold on to it and carry it through your life.
Exactly, Jenny. Oh yeah. So Lori, you did ask about the premise of the book. And so that is really it. So in my work, I was realizing that women, we were going through life and we were just operating off of these scripts that we've been handed. Mm-hmm. And they came from two particular sources. One is from the generations of women that came before us, like the quote that I just read you there.
Yeah.
The message from the women in our lives, our grandmothers, our aunts, our cousins, about how and who we should be as women, as leaders, what our obligations are, how we should show up in the world. And then you take that and you mix it all in with the hundreds of thousands of messages that we get from media and society all the time about who and how to be. And we ingest that, and we suddenly were just operating unconsciously. And so I coined the term unconscious conformity, which is, I believe, where so many of us are operating off of. It's just, we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. We don't know why I'm going to bring homemade muffins to the potluck instead of buying, the ones at the store. Or I don't know why no one's asking my partner to bring a dish to the potluck dinner.
Yeah.
I just accept it. And so my work has really been about unpacking those unconscious scripts, the unconscious conformity, and leaning into conscious choice. And so realizing, what are the messages I received? Which ones do I want that are reflective of who I am and how I want to be in the world as a leader, as a person, as a partner, as a friend? And what are the ones that I can let go of? And so that's really the premise of the book.
I'm so excited to read it. I can't wait. I'm going to make my husband read it too. So he listens to this. So he has an assignment coming his way.
All right. Good.
So how long did it take you? Obviously, years of experience, years of coaching to come to the point where you're like, I want to share this. I want to get this out there. I want to write a book. I want to do. Is this something you'd always thought about, or was it just one day, like, I'm going to do this? I always love getting the background on how someone writes a book. If you've just been taking notes throughout the year, was this just on your bucket list?
And your method.
And your method of doing it. Because with all the things out there, like in our minds and all the information, how do you, narrow it down, like you said, to just over 100, pages? It seems like it would be hard.
It's something I always wanted to do and was intimidated by it. And I've always, you tell it's part of the unconscious conformity sometimes, you get the stories in your head. I'm not a writer. I'm not this, I'm not that. And one day I was like, nope, that's it. Like, I'm just going to set a goal and I'm going to do it. And this happened in September. So I had this mind shift in September and said, I really think I should do this. And at that point, I had a conversation with a colleague who said to me, every moment that you put off writing this book and putting these things into a usable guide for people, you're robbing other people of the expertise that you could share. And that's not fair. And I was like,
that's heavy. That is heavy.
It was. And he's definitely a no bullshit colleague. So I really trust what he has to say. And we worked together a long time, so he knows my work really well. And that was it. I set the goal and I just started rolling through it.
So was it September of 2024 and then you published it? It came out August of 2025?
Yep.
That's exactly. Fast. Okay. And was it like, did you longhand, type, voice memo, all the above?
All the above. And here's what surprised me about it, Jenny, is, and I had a finish goal too. So I have a big leadership development conference that I work with an organization in August. And there were a lot of women there that I've been working with for a number of years. And I wanted to be able to hand the book to them. So I had this goal of August 1st. It was, and so what I was really surprised at was how quickly things went from post-it notes into things that made sense. And that was the best piece of advice I could have been given. Is a good friend of mine said, just put stuff on post-it notes and move it around. And that's what I did. And I ended up going through all of my coaching notes, all of the little things that I'd learned over the years. And I always keep a handwritten book of things that I think of as I'm working with clients or big ahas that they have. And so pulling some of those and just starting to really arrange it into something that made sense was easier than I thought it was going to be.
What was the most surprising story you heard that you incorporated into the book? Was there one that you were just like, I cannot believe that happened? I'm sure they're all like that, but was there one in particular?
Because, yes. And it was the premise for doing this work. And so that's probably the one that really sticks with me. It's a hard question because there's so many stories. And the book is really made up of a compilation of a lot of the processes and ahas and journeys that clients have had. So they all stand out to me. I know that's not the answer that
it's like picking a favorite child.
It is a little bit. And my clients are amazing. They don't, we stay in touch. They come back after 3 years, after a job change, just kind of to get recalibrated. So that's a hard question. But the one that I can't believe happened is the one that was the premise for the book and my work with women in male dominated industries. Okay. So I'll read that now.
Please.
Okay. In 2015, when I led a training for women working at a global engineering company, I didn't expect to hear the words blowjob. One woman at the training, Elisa, worked in the design team. She was in charge of developing a new robot. On a team of 5 men, she was the only female. Unfortunately, that ratio represented much of the company and industry. Elisa shared that she was constantly engaging with the good old boys club that wasn't exceptionally comfortable with the idea of a woman hanging around. She was stuck on the outside, looking in, as the group collectively agreed that the robot's name would be the bitch. Elisa had worked really hard to get to her position on that design team, and she loved the work enough that she didn't say anything for fear of also being labeled a bitch. As you can imagine, things quickly grew worse. During testing, each time the robot did something positive, it was labeled a blowjob or an excellent leg. If it failed to do something, it was deemed a failure, aka taking it up the ass, or on its worst days, a whore. When Elisa finally spoke up and said that she was uncomfortable with this wildly offensive and misogynistic description, the men laughed and told her she was too sensitive, a common way for men to dismiss women's concerns. And that went on. What isn't part of that story was, yes, Elisa spoke up to her design team. She also went to HR. And the response from HR was, you knew what you were getting into.
Oh my God.
Jenny, you can take that one.
Yeah.
And go to that back.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is just, well, okay. So here's a fun fact. Now cussing in the workplace can be hostile work environment and you can have a big lawsuit slapped on you. So, and I can't remember what year that started, probably just a couple of years ago, but yeah, we're seeing more and more of that kind of stuff being brought.
So is it
like legal
specific
charges.
verbiage, Jenny?
No, I mean, basically it's like if there is cussing in the workplace, I think they even removed that it had to be pervasive. And so we tell our clients like, yeah, don't do it. And I'm a cusser. And so when we heard this and we were at a legal briefing for HR, and when we heard this, I looked at my business partner, I was like, oh God. But yeah, it's a big deal.
Interesting.
So, and I'll tell you, I worked at a company where I was in a male dominated industry, and the stuff that they would say, and you start to just tune it out and then you become part of the problem. And I know I was part of the problem because I was, first of all, HR, it was the first time HR was even invited to their meeting. And so there's that pressure of like, if you say something, you'll never be invited back. You know what I mean? So there's all these things that you feel like you can't say anything.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Jenny. Hopefully that's I didn't know that law existed. That's good because it may help some of this in a sort of offhanded way. And, that is one of the things I talk about in the book is I don't want anyone to think that this book is saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Mm-hmm. We don't know anyone's stories, right? And so before I decide to speak up, how important is my job? What are the repercussions going to be? Am I the primary breadwinner? There's so many personal things that come into the decision whether or not to speak up. And it's not always okay to do so. You have to be real clear on what the consequences may be before you decide to do that.
Right. Well, it sounds like your book, is, full of examples that is meant to empower women. Like Jenny said, you just kind of ignore it or you just accept it as this is the way it is. But by providing those kind of examples, I mean, it's like, wow, like you don't even imagine some of that happening where for others it happens in a day to day and they just are like, oh, well, this is just how it is, and we should never just say.
You just take it.
Yeah.
Yep. Just take it. Yep.
I don't know if this has come up. And I did not send you this in pre-question. So if you feel uncomfortable answering, please, we can skip it. But I'm wondering about like with menopause, a lot of, women tend to run up against a lot of obstacles when they start to hit menopause. It's like the same thing when you first have kids, right? It's like you've got these moments in your life that only women experience. It's like, going through hormones with childbirth and having a baby and then raising the kids. And then you've got menopause. And then the workplace is so designed for men and has been for so many years. Did you see anything around that at all or not really?
No, hugely. A lot of my clients, because they're usually pretty high up in the organization are, they're dealing with that. And so then the question becomes, am I crazy? Like,
yeah,
should I be, is this me? Oh, should I be getting more sleep? Should I be exercising? It's automatically like, what can I do to alleviate that? Not, wow, I'm dealing with this crap. I really, need to take some time off, to figure this out. My hormones are out of balance. I had a client for a really long time who finally went and had a wonderful, doctor who, put her on some hormone replacement. And she came back and said, I didn't realize how bad things were, but we're so conditioned to just slog through the shit, right? To just take it on. And that we don't stop. Rest is like we feel like it's like a reward or a weakness or something that we need to earn. Sometimes we just need to step back and take care of ourselves. However, it's risky, especially if you're a woman in a male-dominated industry, right? I mean, it can be seen as, you're not committed. We always knew that you were, a little too self-focused, whatever it is. You have to deal with the fallout. It's very seldom just given.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So with all of your background and coaching and experience, how has this kind of had an overlay into your personal life, like being a mom and being a coach, as we all are to our own children? Have you seen a lot of crossover with some of your advice that you give your clients that you've, implemented into your own day-to-day with your family?
Yeah, huge, especially raising two daughters. And the hard part about that is that you can do anything and everything. You can talk about confidence. You can talk about not caring what other people think, as long as you're a good person and you're doing the right thing. And then you've got the messages that society is piling on them. And so it really, the same messages that I give to my clients are the same messages I give to my daughters, right? Which is, what are your personal core values? And that's where I find a lot of my clients absolutely exhausted, is when your work, for one reason or another, is really rubbing up against your core values and you're not sure why. And that's some of the hardest work I do with people. They don't even realize why they're so exhausted. And when something's really, really important to you and it's not happening in the culture, and you're constantly having to explain it away or digest it or deal with it, it is 10 times as exhausting. And it's really sneaky. We don't know that that's the reason that we're exhausted. So all of that to say, I really work hard with my kids, making sure that they understand what their personal core values are, and that the choices that they make, whether it's friends or colleges or professions, that they're really understanding what's important to them as a person, so they can live, they can live without that friction. Even in jobs, like, it's good for them to have jobs that challenge them, but also to be in touch with, what do I like about this job? What do I not like about this job? And sometimes my kids will put their hands on their hips and they'll go, okay, I don't need you coaching me right now. Thank you anyway.
Yep. Absolutely.
But you're like, I'm still going to, because I want you to be a good human and I want to help.
Right. Exactly.
And they're going to be grateful. They're getting it for free, and you charge, I mean, you're worth a lot, right? Like, they're getting it for free. They should enjoy it.
Right.
I'll tell them that, Jenny.
Like, people pay me lots of money for this advice, and I am giving it to you for free every single day.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. How grateful should you be?
Right. Exactly. And you had mentioned, when we chatted, you had mentioned burnout and how a lot of this leads to burnout. So I want to know, you said that burnout looks different in women than it does in men. And I'd love to talk about that for a second.
Yeah. I wish I could say we're seeing less burnout, and we're not. We're seeing more burnout.
Yeah.
It is getting more and more pervasive. We need to make a change. This hustle and grind culture is just driving people into the ground. And it's unfortunate that people have to start, choosing between exhaustion and keeping their job. And we have to stop valuing the person who is there until 9 o'clock at night is the most dedicated. The one that's answering email over the weekend is the most committed. The one that is volunteering for every task is the one that is going to get promoted. We really need to shed that stuff, because you know what we need more? We need healthy cultures, and we need healthy, happy employees.
The people that take the vacations and stay on vacation when they're on vacation are the people that should get rewarded for actually keeping true to that and not being the person that's always available. I mean, that drives me crazy, because it's like, people are like, well, I'm going on vacation, but, I'll still be available by phone, by email. And it's like, but you're on vacation. Just because you can be available doesn't mean you need to be. You have to recharge your batteries. So, like you said, it's just an expectation, because I believe with technology that when you're off, you're never really off. It's not like you leave the office, especially when you work from home. It's like you're always in it. So people have to, and companies have to kind of create those, I feel like, standards where the standard is, you do need time off. You do need to be done when you're done. And you're not getting bonus points if you're checking your email at 9 o'clock and responding. You're just setting yourself up for failure, because now you're opening up the door for people thinking you're always available. So I think, it's retraining. Like you said, we need to reset standards as a society.
Absolutely. And here's the ugly little secret behind that, though, is a lot of that is about me. Right. And so I need to believe that the trains will run on time if I'm not available. I need to believe that the people under me can make the decisions if I'm not involved. I need to trust that. And that can be really hard for people to sit with that. Like, it's okay. They'll figure it out. Yeah. So it's this unpacking of how much am I needed? How much am I needed? And it gets very complicated, with am I developing the people under me to effectively take the reins when I'm not there? Am I doing too many things instead of developing my people? Am I not delegating? There's just a million questions there. And so to go back to your original question, the long and the short of it is everybody is suffering from burnout. Men, and my husband and I joke about this all the time, they can do one thing at a time, right? So they do whatever the thing is they're doing. They're doing one thing. They're doing that thing. And when they're burned out, it is, and I'm not saying that they suffer any less from burnout. They don't. They just deal with it differently. It can be verbal. They can actually get physically ill. They can talk about it, and they hit a wall sooner than women do. And this is just in my experience. This may be very different from other people, is that I'm going to say, hey, this is too much this week. I can't do this. Or we've had this position open long enough. Like, I'm not stepping up anymore. We need to hire a temp, or whatever that is. And there's space. There's more acceptable space for men to talk about what they need, to talk about their burnout, and to sometimes lean on that person at home more, unfortunately. And for women, we feel like we have to carry it all, and we have to keep it all inside. And not only do we carry it and keep it inside, we twist it in a way that it's suddenly about me. It's about me not being able to do it well enough. Why can't I keep all the balls in the air? Why can't I have my cake and eat it too? How come and then it turns into failure. And then it turns into, I knew I couldn't do this, or this isn't working for me, instead of looking at the system.
Yeah.
And what I see happening so often with that is they just drive and drive and drive. And the things that go are self-care, sleep. And instead of saying, I need this, it's, boy, I just can't do it all. And I don't know why. And how come so-and-so down the road can and I can't? One of the worst things to happen to women is to believe that they can have a killer career and a wonderful home life and not ask for help.
Yeah.
And to feel like we have to do it all. And again, it's complicated, right? We have to be able to let go of some things. We have to ask for help. We have to let go of perfection. And it can be really hard.
Speaking of burnout, and I'd like to hear from both of you, how have each of you been able to avoid in those moments of feeling burnt out, right? Although we all love, at times what we're doing, or even if you don't love what you're doing, what are some things that you individually, both of you, I want to hear, Jenny, from you also, have done to help with that kind of feeling and burnout, stress, whatever it is? Like, what are some tips and tricks that you personally have found have worked for yourself? Melissa, do you have any advice on that?
Absolutely. And it is a small thing, and it has huge changes, which is to meditate, like a time to turn off your mind. And a lot of my clients will say it's really hard to find the time. It's really hard to find a quiet place. Do it before you get out of bed. And you don't have to figure out how to do it either. There's a million apps. There's a million ways you can do it. But to be able to turn off your brain and stop the overthinking is huge. And when you feel a scramble, like I teach my clients they really have to tune into their gut. Like, when am I feeling off? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling like I can't think clearly? Am I in a fog? Am I trying to be 12 places at once? And to pay attention to those warning signs. We don't pay anywhere near enough attention anymore to our own bodies. They know. And just to use that to say, okay, something's amiss. What do I need to do differently? What can I delegate? Who can I ask for help? What can I say no to? And to give yourself permission to have those times. I always envisioned creating this outfit that you'd put on after you finished your work day. And it would be a giant hoodie, and it would be a pair of sweatpants, and it would just say, off duty, ask somebody else.
I love it. I think you should do it.
I think you should do that and promote it.
My mom at the end of it was very different. Because she, you couldn't work from home back then, right? But when my mom would come home, after she was working all day, she had like the matching sweatsuits that she would put on. And so like she would come home, and that was the first thing she did. She'd put on her sweatsuit. And I do love that thought of that visual, because I put on now I'm at home working from home, so I wear like comfy clothes all the time. But I love that differentiation. It's like, I'm in my work clothes. I'm in my, I'm off duty. I think that's brilliant. And
it kind of helps
to do little things like that, compartmentalize. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
All right, Jenny.
So if you do it, I'll buy it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. You're on. Sure. You're on, Jen.
All right, Jenny, your turn. What are some other additional
So
things?
I would echo. So I actually did hit a point of burnout, and it was a combination of things. And I did end up leaving a job. There was a values misalignment too that I think also added to that. And I ended up leaving a job. And So I've tried to be much better since then, right? And I work for myself now, so that definitely helps in some ways. And in other ways, you are always on. I would also agree with you that we had a guest on the show, Shantae Hooks, who talked about meditation. And I've heard about meditation for years. And there was a switch, something she said just got me. And so I told her, I was like, I've been meditating for just 5 minutes every morning before work. And I really feel a shift. So that's huge. I move my body. I think that for me, if I don't move my body, I feel like energy just gets stuck in there, And then my therapist, actually, she taught me it's not box breathing, but it's you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and then you push all your air out for 8. And it just it's something to do with the vagus nerve, I guess. It just kind of resets. So those are the things that I lean on.
And I think we hear that a lot. It's the meditate and whatever that means to you, and meditating, taking that moment to just, clear your mind, be it, after a workout or even on a walk, right? Where you're just going, and just can find something else to kind of disconnect. And then moving your body, I think just allowing yourself the opportunity to reset, right? And just kind of have that space, because it is for me very very hard. And Jenny knows too, when we say meditate, I'm like, I can't meditate. I can't sit still. I can't calm my mind. Right? This is very hard. So I have to think of it in a different way. Like for me, going for a walk is something that I value because it gives me the moment to be outside and to just kind of like in my own way meditate and not think about like having to sit and meditate. That stresses me out because I'm like, well, I can't, so it's like coming the things that you can do, little steps, like Jenny said, maybe it's 5 minutes, or maybe it's after a workout, it's stretching and quiet with no music and just being present, but I do think those things add up to help just, give you a moment back to really be with yourself. So I appreciate all that. So we like to ask some fun questions. I mean, we've talked about a lot of fun stuff, but what are some other things besides working? Because at the end of the day, this is work that you like to do, like for travel or that fills your bucket to make you the best you, to go then help coach everyone else to be their best selves. What are things that help fill your bucket with,
I saw one that I can't wait to talk about.
Okay, good. All right.
I love it. So for me, I'm very competitive and I love running. So I keep K races on my calendar so that I get out the door, right? So I always have a race date. It keeps a goal in front of me and keep track of my time. And each race I want to beat myself. And so, so that's one of the things that I love doing. And sometimes I can even get my kids to do it with me, which is really fun.
Ooh,
I love to travel. And whenever I travel, there's always service involved with the travel.
Oh, I love that.
Really. So my daughters and I and 11 other people just got back from the Dominican Republic, and we were volunteering at a school for girls over there and had a blast. So anytime we travel as a family, we always do a little bit of service. One of the things that's near and dear to my heart, you might have seen my sticker, Unlimited Possibilities, is a little nonprofit that was started by my father and godfather. And we do service trips all over the world. They're really small. Our mission is to impact the individual, and that is a huge part of my life. So my family is, all 6 of us are on the board, along with 2 other families. That's huge. And then in my spare time, I ride. I'm also a competitive equestrian.
Do running and riding when you were younger, or was this something that came about later in life?
So the running came about later in life. Riding has always been a part of my life. Yeah, forever and ever.
Yeah. That is so cool. Did you grow up around horses, or?
I did. Yeah. There was just a woman that lived down the street from us, and I went and knocked on her door and said, "Can I ride your horse?" And she said, "Sure, if you clean the stall." And that started a lifetime relationship. Little 6-year-old.
I have an animal question because I don't get to spend a lot of time around horses, right? I have a cat and I have a dog, and I've always wondered, horses just seem so sweet. The relationship that you have with a horse, and you hear about it all the time, like horses and people riding horses and spending time with horses. And I'm just curious the kind of relationship that you have with a horse and the personality versus a cat and a dog.
It is really powerful. And it's something that is, if I can ever swing it, it's part of my one-on-one coaching. So I do have 2 colleagues who do equine assisted learning is what it's called in our field. So not necessarily for therapy. So I do a power and presence module using horses, and it's huge. I mean, it is amazing. So to answer your question, Lori, they are fascinating. We've always loved them. However, their feedback is immediate. They they pay very close attention to how you show up physically. They're always they're either going to be the leader or they're looking for you to be the leader. And so how you use your body is they respond to it. And so we work a lot on how you approach, how you lead, and it's a really powerful session. And right now, one of the things I'm working on right now is developing an 8-month women's leadership course for women who are mid-career, and that will be part of it. So horses they can tell if you're feeling insecure. They can tell if you're confident, because for them out in the wild is, if I'm going to follow you, I better have 100% confidence in you. And so they do something once they trust you. It's called join up, and they will follow you. They have all kinds of body signals that they will show you as a result of join up, what we call it, which is I put my head down, I put my ears back, and I'm going to walk behind you wherever you go. It's fascinating to watch. Really,
it makes me want to do it.
I know.
Let's
get a horse,
do a session.
Jenny. Come on.
I know. So I have a friend who went to Miraval Spa, like that beautiful spa in Arizona that like Oprah's talked about. And they did equine therapy sessions, and it just sounded, I can't even think of another word besides magical,
My clients will say it is some of the most powerful work we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to your book on that. That is your next book.
Yeah. How I use horses with my coaching practice.
That. That would be amazing. And kind of like a lot of people wouldn't even think about that, right? Like, how animals can impact you in the workplace and just as a person, right? I mean, they just would pass right over that, but they'd see your book and be like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Melissa, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. What are some words of advice or wisdom that you would like to share with our listeners, either as a mom, as a leader, as a coach, as a woman, just, if someone's needing a little motivation, be it whatever it is they're looking to be motivated to do?
Yes. And I walk you through this in the book, but you don't need the book to do it, which is really tune into your personal core values. Really start listening to your gut and trust yourself and stop trying to be everything to everyone. I always use the analogy as if you're walking with the grocery cart through the grocery store and think about the woman that's in your way and think about the man that's in your way. The man will look at you and say, excuse me, and keep walking, walk out of the way. And the woman will often tuck in her butt and scramble and say, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And we have to stop apologizing for taking up space and inconveniencing people and associating our value with that. My value is not how much you like me. My value is not, do I make everyone happy? My value is not, do I give all of myself all the time to everyone who needs it? No, your value is you, and to be okay with that. And just the amount of time, if I were to give one huge piece of advice, it would be a good person, be sensitive, be communicative, be kind, and let go of the people pleasing. You don't have to that doesn't have to be part of who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree. And it's for some reason so hard to deprogram it,
You made me think of something that I talk about in the book. It starts from birth, right?
Yeah.
If we think about how differently women and men and girls and boys are conditioned, even from infants, you go back to those old nursery rhymes. You two don't look old enough to know, but snakes and snails and puppy dogs' tails. That's what little boys are made of. Sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. And until we start to be okay with that, we can't challenge the system. Men and women both. We need to do it together. And we need to be okay with not being sugar and spice and everything nice. And it's okay not to be that way. We just have to be a good person. Yeah. And in the book I want to really invite men to step up. In the book, there's one chapter that my husband wrote because he's watched me go through this work and this transformation. And he believes that it's really important for women to have a bit of a break and for men to step up. We're so tired of trying to change the system. We didn't create it. It's not our job. We need some help.
Yeah, it's just something so simple. But the other day I was just thinking about, I was feeling bad that I hadn't reached out to somebody that I hadn't talked to for talked to for a while. And all of a sudden, and Lori, maybe I said this to you, because I always feel guilty. Like, I haven't reached out to this person. I haven't reached out to this person. I'm, busy and I haven't said, hi, how are you? Whatever. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me, they also haven't reached out. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a human way. Like, why am I putting so much pressure on myself to always be the one to reach out and say hi and reach out and say, how are you? Like, that's where my worth comes from, to kind of to your point. And so, yeah, it was just a kind of an aha moment for me. I'm like, wait a minute, I do not need to own this all the time. Like, it's not my sole responsibility,
Well said, Jenny. That's right. And that's that part of that realization is, they have a phone too. They have a computer. It doesn't have to be about me and my neglect or dropping the ball. Yeah. We need to stop piling on things, stop shitting on ourselves, as somebody smart person said.
I know. It's one of my favorites. I do love it.
Melissa, so if people want to reach out to you for your services or just to connect, what is the best way for them to do so and purchase your book? Do you have a website they can do this at? How can they find you and how can they get a hold of your new book?
I do. So you can buy it on Amazon, but they take a big fat chunk. You can also buy it on my website, which is melissachhannon.com. If you just type in Melissa Churchard Hannon, it will pop up on my website. And so those are the two places that you can get it. And you can also find information about working with me on my website.
Perfect.
I really want to thank you both for having me on and giving some time for this to be voiced, because we need to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves, and to have the two of you running this amazing podcast and making space for us to let ourselves off the hook a little bit is really important.
So thrilled to have you. Thank you so much. This has just been awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time, Melissa.